Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. You can share our video. You can also type in if you have any questions or any comments that are relevant to what we're discussing. Take a friend. Let's grow together. Thank you once again for joining us for our part two, Start Your Business the Right Way. William Bygrave, a scholar and practitioner of entrepreneurship, describes an entrepreneur as someone who not only perceives an opportunity, but also creates an organization to pursue it. Ideas are one thing, but opportunities, as we generally understand them, are best addressed through business organizations formed by entrepreneurs. Thomas Edison, for example, recognized the business opportunity in urban electric illumination, which he pursued through tireless laboratory experiments that eventually produced a workable light bulb. But invention was only part of Edison's genius. He also formed a company that brought together the human and financial resources needed to implement his vision of commercial and residential lighting. That company was the forerunner of the General Electric Company, one of today's largest and most powerful enterprises. Today's session is the second session where we'll be talking about how to start your business the right way. In today's session, we'll talk about 3 remaining steps of starting your business the right way. Those who joined us last week, we spoke about the 2 steps. So last week, we spoke about the first 2 steps, starting business the right way, which way to determine whether you are an entrepreneur or not, and to define your business. Temba, do you have any news from this past week for our viewers?
Yes, I do, Tafazo. But I don't want to spend time on the news. The first thing that I would want to talk about is the impact on AI on jobs. So AI stands for artificial intelligence. This week I was just studying a report that was produced by the World Economic Forum, and it was quite interesting to me when they were looking at the future of jobs. It was very interesting to me how they indicated that obviously with the introduction of AI, some jobs are going to be lost, but they also made a point that jobs are going to be created. In their estimation, by 2025, about 85 million jobs worldwide are going to be lost. In other words, through automation of routine tasks, some people are going to lose their jobs. That's the bad news. But there is a good news here. And the good news is that 97 million jobs are going to be created. So there will be a net gain of something like 12 million jobs by 2020. There are 2 reasons why I'm raising the conclusions from this particular report. The first reason why I'm raising it is that let's not have this view that says AI is negative. It's going to result in certain jobs being lost. Let's also look at the upside of AI, that there are certain jobs that are going to be created. The second reason, which is a recommendation out of this report, is that everyone needs to reskill and upskill. So it's a message that we would want to communicate to all that follow us, that it doesn't matter what you are doing. We are living in times when we have to reskill. In other words, improve our skills in line with the requirements of the 4th or the 5th industrial revolution. That is very, very important. I've had to do that, and I'm not losing sleep on whether AI will replace me or not. In fact, I'm actually looking at the opportunities that AI will pose. After studying that report, I then came across another report in the UK where they were basically saying that about 8 million jobs are at the risk of being lost as a result of the introduction of AI in the UK. And they basically singled out two industries where jobs are being lost, and there they were talking about the insurance industries and the finance sector. I think those are the sectors that have embraced AI, particularly in areas in the back office and in call centers. And some of you might have actually seen these trends, manifesting themselves. Doesn't matter where you are. So the reason why we're raising this is that AI is here to stay, and we are really seeing the manifestation of AI. But we are also communicating that let's look at the positive side. Um, don't fear having your job being lost. Just learn how to use AI. And if you learn how to use AI, you will, you will not be replaced. And then I also studied another McKinsey report. And, McKinsey published a report. And one of the things that they concluded from that report is that more jobs are going to be created in AI, but they are jobs of a different kind. And they are talking about the creation of jobs in areas such as trading, for example. Trading becomes an opportunity. And if, for some of you that might lose jobs, I recommend that you learn how to trade markets. It doesn't matter with whatever capital you have. We are going to see traders being born. These are people that just live to trade markets, using a number of trading methodologies that may be there. And that's one of the things that they are concluding. They are also saying here that there will be low level jobs that are not replaceable, even if AI is embraced by the world. So I just found those reports to be, very useful. In South Africa, in this week, the South African Revenue Services reported their results. The 31st of March was the year end for SARS, as we call them. It was quite interesting to me to see that in an economy which is not doing well, SARS had actually exceeded their targets. So they were able to collect 1.741 trillion rands, and they had an unexpected surplus of 10 billion rands. Three insights that I got from what the commissioner was saying. The first insight is that as far as tax collections are concerned, SARS has been growing their tax collections by a compound rate of 9% in the past 10 years. What it means here is that, particularly for those that are in South Africa and also those that are in other countries, I think we're seeing tax authorities being aggressive in enlarging the tax base, but also in increasing compliance levels. So our message to all of us is don't be found on the wrong side of the authorities. Always be compliant as far as your taxes are concerned. The second insight that I got is that SARS is actually using AI tools to catch those people that are not complying with taxes. You might not be aware, but they have begun. In fact, going back to the other report that I referenced, which was a McKinsey report, I found it interesting that 48% of businesses globally, they have begun to use AI in their business. And when I listened to the SARS tax commissioner, he seemed also to be implying that they are beginning to use machine learning and artificial intelligence techniques to catch people that are dodging their taxes. So again, don't be found on the wrong side. In that report, in the presentation by the tax commissioner, they indicated that 85 lifestyle and luxury vehicle audits had been done. And arising from those lifestyle audits, they had actually collected something like 850 million. So again, we come back to the advice that we've given before. Don't be conspicuous in your consumption. Sometimes I see people, we have gotten a tender here or a lump sum there, being conspicuous in their consumption. One of the areas that they begin to, indulge in is buying luxury cars. So SARS is actually monitoring who is buying the luxury cars. Are they paying their fair share of taxes? So, don't be conspicuous in your consumption. You're not going to raise the attention of SARS. So that's the other thing that I just wanted to highlight arising, from that. The third insight that I would want to share with you is that going forward, my sense is that we are going to live in an environment where people will be paying taxes. Governments obviously are running out of money. And my own estimation is that governments are going to introduce all kinds of taxes to make sure that tax revenues continue to grow. And that's my sense, going forward, which means that as far as our personal finances are concerned, it becomes very important to learn about taxes and to look at ways in which we can minimize our tax obligations there. When I went into the numbers, obviously, the bulk of their collections is coming from employees. These are people that have got no choice but to have payee deducted from their salaries. That number has been growing. It's an easy target for SARS. The thing about being an entrepreneur is that you've got tools, you've got ways in which you can, limit your tax obligations. But let's just always bear in mind that tax authorities are becoming aggressive everywhere. The third thing that I would want to mention is that I came across a report in this week, and this is a research report that was done by Discovery Bank, together with Visa. Discovery Bank is one of the digital banks that started in the past 2 or 3 years in South Africa. We've seen quite a number of digital banks starting in South Africa. They did a research report just to see the extent to which South Africans are using digital wallets. And that report is quite clear. South African consumers have led the shift globally, towards embracing digital wallets. So more and more people in South Africa are using digital wallets. They had this research not only in South Africa, but they compared South Africans with other cities in the world. So in their sample, they had cities in Australia, they had cities in the US, such as Los Angeles and New York. And what was quite clear is that the extent to which digital wallets have been embraced in South Africa is far greater than how digital wallets have been embraced the world over. And I just found that, to be, enlightening. So I will ask you the question: to what extent have you embraced technology? Is your money still physical, or is it, digital? It might be useful to, go with this, revolution. And then the last thing that I would want to mention, it's news coming from Zimbabwe. So in this week, the new central bank governor in Zimbabwe, his name is Mr. John Mshayavanu. He actually announced that they had issued a new currency. They are calling it a structured currency. And that structured currency is backed up by gold. It's called the ZiG currency. ZiG is simply an abbreviation for Zimbabwe gold. I've got 3 comments on that. The first comment, and this applies to all of us in terms of how we manage our finances, whether we're talking about finances for countries, for companies, or for individuals. The first thing is, when you find yourself in a problem or in a financial hole, always do what we call a root cause analysis and make sure that your solution that you come up with addresses the root causes of the problems. It's something that was established in the engineering world. We also use root cause analysis in the risk management, world. And your solutions should address the root causes. We all know that inflation picked up in Zimbabwe, and Zimbabwe is, for all intents and purposes, a hyperinflationary economy now. We know that the currency in the past 2 months has deteriorated. What the monetary and fiscal authorities in Zimbabwe should have done is to identify the real root causes, for that. Issuing a new currency or structuring a new currency will not do it. It doesn't address the root causes. So that's the first thing that I would want to say there. The second thing that I would want to say, and this is also a key learning for all of us, when we talk about markets, when we talk about banking systems, when we talk about how monetary systems are structured, these are systems that operate on the basis of confidence, right? So, for example, I know this currency that they've introduced is gold backed. It doesn't matter if you back your currency with gold, as long as people do not have confidence in that currency. It could be investors, it could be the users of that currency. As long as they don't have confidence in the ability of the government to observe fiscal discipline or all the disciplines that are associated with managing an economy, it does not matter even if you've got 1 trillion tons backing up your currency. It's still going to encourage quite a lot of speculative activity. So that's the other thing that I would want to say, there, which is very important. What they should have done is to spend much more time in introducing this currency, in making sure that they increase the confidence levels of market participants. And part of increasing the confidence levels would have been coming up with, clear initiatives to deal with the speculative activities that are happening, and clear initiatives to deal with corruption and everything that has caused the collapse of the Zimbabwean dollar. Because then people will begin to have confidence, or introducing some kind of transparency in terms of the auditing of these gold reserves. I think that would have done it for me, instead of this zig currency. The other thing that I would want to say, which is very, very important, is that a currency is a currency. There is no need to structure any currency. Once you begin to structure things and the way you communicate what you're trying to do, because even to laymen, um, a structured currency does not mean much. It actually causes confusion. So I would have preferred for these authorities to make sure that their messaging is quite clear. In my book, probably the only structured currency that I can accept is probably a cryptocurrency. That's the kind of structuring that is in keeping with the fourth industrial revolution. I'm not aware of any country that backs up its currency with gold. That's so 19th century. If you were to ask me, we now in another century, and people are talking about currencies that are crypto based. Probably that's the only structuring. If you cannot structure it appropriately, then just call it a currency and keep things very, very simple, addressing the root causes. So that's just the commentary that I have on the new Zimbabwean currency. I think that country is in for tough times. Whatever the authorities are doing there does not address the root causes. Let me stop there, Tafadzwa, and hand over to you.
Thank you very much for that enlightenment. I was just seeing on social media that there's ZIG, but I didn't quite understand what it was. I was just thinking when you're talking about the SARS following up on taxes using AI, how effective is it going to be? Because if Or how are they going to do it? Because if they're going to call, I've received calls before, and when I just think that I'm talking to a robot, I just switch off. Maybe I'm still old school. But how are they going to do it for it to be effective? Many people, when they just realize they're talking to a robot, they switch off.
So the main way in which they're going to do it is going to use machine learning to detect people that are under declaring their income, right? There are many ways in which you can use AI in text collection. Let me just talk about two of those ways. So one way is to detect where a taxpayer is actually under declared their income. So let me give you a practical example. There are people that are involved in property transactions. It doesn't matter what property transactions you are doing. If you do a property transaction, whoever is the lawyer there is to pay transfer duty to SARS. And as they are paying the transfer duty, they note who are the people that are buying the property. So they will say Temba is buying property, Tafadzwa is buying property, and that's their ID. So the machine and their data will record that Tafadzwa and Temba have bought a property. Then they will look at Temba's tax declaration, of his income. To the extent to which Temba has underdeclared his income, SARS system will then flag and say, with this kind of income, there is no way they could have afforded the property that they brought because all that information is with SARS. So it's not a human that is doing that. The lawyer, the conveyancer has just given the information to SARS that so and so bought a property, and then the systems will then compare the information that is, and to the extent to which there is under declaration, the SARS system will then flag, and then SARS will investigate. So that's one way in which artificial intelligence is being used by tax authorities. The other way is in VAT fraud, and the tax, commissioner also spoke about that. You may not be aware, Tafadzo, there are so many people who defraud SARS with submitting fraudulent VAT refund claims. And many people have become millionaires or billionaires through these VAT refund claims. So again, SARS has got intelligent systems to be able to detect fraud. And these are machine learning techniques that they have. And they actually, if I were to go back to that report, Tafadzo, they've actually said here fraudulent VAT refunds totaling 101 billion were prevented from flowing out of the fiscus. So if they didn't have these artificial intelligence techniques, 101 billion rands would actually have flowed out of SARS. So that's one way in which they are using, artificial intelligence, techniques. They have also employed artificial intelligence techniques, and this is not something that is unique to South Africa. It's unique everywhere in debt collections. So SARS also spoke about how they've been useful, how they've been very successful in their debt collection efforts. So that's another way in which artificial intelligence, techniques. But the key point that we're highlighting there, Tafadzwa, is that don't even think of defrauding SARS. On this show, we always encourage all our viewers and our listeners to be tax compliant and to adhere to the laws. In tax, we always say tax evasion is illegal and tax avoidance is legal. So we encourage people to look at legal tax avoidance ways, and probably one of these days we may do a show, Tafadzwa, on tax avoidance opportunities that entrepreneurs can actually have and utilize. Although I must just point out that with people that are employed by somebody, there is very little scope for tax avoidance opportunities. And that's where SARS seems to be generating most of their tax collections, from. Tafadza.
Thank you for that highlight. Very helpful. Our book for the week is the Harvard Business Review Entrepreneur's Handbook. Everything you need to launch and grow your new business. This book is freely available on the internet as a PDF and also as an audio book. Temba, you introduced this book last week. Do you have any more to add about this book and also give us your thought of the day?
So as you indicated there, Tafadzwa, we projected the book on the screen last week. I'm not going to project it again, but the book is titled Harvard Business Review, Entrepreneur's Handbook, everything you need to launch and grow your business. There are three reasons why I like this book, Tafadzwa. Number one, this book actually provides entrepreneurs with frameworks, advice, and tools that they need to excel as entrepreneurs. So you're not just talking about a book that is just giving advice. They are giving you templates. They are giving you frameworks on how to do that. And in this presentation, we're going to talk about some of the 5 steps that they have indicated in that book. Reason number two, why I like this book is that most of those frameworks are actually coming from research. So this book is actually a distillation or a summary of all the research that has been done by Harvard University in the area of entrepreneurship. The third reason why I like this book is that not only are they basing their conclusions on research, but they actually give real life stories. So as you go through this book, you'll be exposed to real life stories of people who started businesses and of great businesses that have started and how those businesses have been successful. Let's go to the thought of the day. My thought of the day, Tafadzwa, is not everyone is called to be an entrepreneur. Entrepreneur is not for everybody, but we are all called to be investors. On this show, you have heard me say, Tafadzwa, that entrepreneurship and investing are skills that must be taught. Remember, we've spoken about AI. We've spoken about machine learning, which are technologies that are coming into this world. We've spoken about upskilling and reskilling. One of the skills that we need to master in the 4th industrial revolution is investing. Because entrepreneurship, in my view, and investing are the only 2 activities that we can embark on to bridge the inequality gap. If you look at the world now, there is a huge inequality gap that is developing between the haves and the have-nots. I was looking at the Forbes list of billionaires. In fact, it's quite interesting to me, Tafadzwa, that this, there's a guy that I've been following, and in his report that I read in this week, he did indicate that AI will produce the first trillionaire in the world. Imagine if on the one scale of people we've got trillionaires and multi-billionaires being produced, but on the other scale, we've got people that are becoming poorer and poorer. And so my thought of the day is that investing as a skill is a skill that we must all develop in this 4th industrial revolution. I don't care whether you've got a mathematical background, an economics background, learn investing, learn the basics of investing. I'm not asking you, all of us, to be entrepreneur, but I'm asking us to be investors. Don't brag about how a saver you are. Some people brag about, I'm a good saver. Saving won't take you anywhere. Investing will take you somewhere. And that's my thought and comment for the day, Tafadzo.
Thank you for that insight. Not everyone is called to be an entrepreneur. Yes, last week also mentioned that if you are worried over a salary, you are an employee. So maybe that's the easiest way you can find yourself if you can't live without a salary. Entrepreneurship may not be for you. Before you share with our viewers on the 3 other steps of starting a business effectively, you have been a full-time entrepreneur for the past 12 years. What are some of the mistakes you've made in your entrepreneurial journey?
I've made so many mistakes, Tafadzo. Too many mistakes to actually count on my hand. But probably let me just talk about the 3 significant mistakes that I have made. Probably our viewers and our listeners can actually learn from these mistakes. The first mistake that I made as I launched our business, Tafadzo, is that I copied what others were doing. I just, the first business that we launched was a training business. So what I did is that I looked at the models that were there in training businesses and I just copied what they were doing. But in so doing, I was not very, very successful. After a lot of reflection, if I had to do all this over again, I think I would try to be unique. It's very important that as entrepreneurs, particularly if you are going into a congested market, you try to be unique and you find your niche. In entrepreneurship, we always talk about what is your niche? What are the things that separate you from the rest? So many people never actually spend time reflecting on those things that makes them unique. If you are to disrupt a market, you have to be unique. And we're going to see quite a lot of disruption going on in markets as we are used, to them. So that's the first mistake that I made. It was later on in my entrepreneurial journey that I then decided to adapt and try to be unique and not copy everyone else. Some of the people that I was actually copying, Tafadzo, went on to collapse because, particularly during COVID and some of the downturns that we've had in our training industries, a number of businesses actually collapsed. I'm still standing. And the reason why I'm still standing is that I chose to be unique. I chose to focus on a certain niche. And as a result, businesses that were doing general things, I don't want to mention some of these businesses, but some of these businesses had significant market shares in the training industries. So always be unique. Ask yourself what makes you unique and make those unique properties part of your selling proposition. As you craft your customer value proposition, just make sure that you sell your businesses around or your products around what makes you unique. The second mistake that I made was that when I was building the business, I think I ended up acquiring quite a lot of fixed overheads. And some of these fixed overheads were not commensurate with the extent to which I was generating revenue. As a result, at some point, we actually collapsed. So it's a mistake that entrepreneurs make when you are going into businesses, particularly when you are bootstrapping your business. Bootstrapping is essentially funding your business from personal resources, from personal savings. The mistake that most entrepreneurs make is that they go and get an office, sometimes more office space than they need. They go and employ, quite a number of employees. And these are fixed commitments that you're actually making. And you will actually see that the extent to which you are generating revenue will actually not match the overheads that you would have acquired. So I always advise employees, entrepreneurs to try to build lean businesses, particularly businesses that do not have significant fixed commitments, but variable overheads. When we talk about variable overheads, we're talking about costs that vary with the extent to which you are generating revenue. The other mistake that I have made, probably I'm still making the same mistake, but I'm coming out of it now, is that I spend quite a lot of time working in my business instead of working on my business because there is a huge difference. In fact, I was employee number 1 and I was the one who was working very hard, more than any other employee in Duplex Institute. As an entrepreneur, at some stage, you need to spend more of your time strategizing and working on your business, particularly as you scale up your business. Most businesses do not, scale up. In other words, they do not grow to be significant enterprises because as an employee in your business, you can only do so much. And particularly if you are passionate about your job, which I have been passionate, you can end up being employee number one and the business does not grow. You will never achieve 100 million of revenue, 1 billion of revenue, as long as you are employee number one in your business. So working in your business more than working on your business is another mistake that I have made, and I'm learning to come out of that mistake, Tafazo.
You need to work on your business, not in your business. I think many people are employee number ones for their businesses because you get attached and sometimes even get emotional about your business. But we're being taught that we need to separate our businesses from us, and we work on the business, not in our businesses. What are the 3 steps of effectively starting a successful business, Temba?
So that we don't lose our viewers and our listeners. Last week we actually introduced the 5 steps of effectively starting your business, and these 5 steps are based on the information that comes from the book that we spoke about earlier on. Let me just go through all the 5 steps. Then I'll spend quite some time just elaborating on the 3 steps that we didn't speak about last week. So, step number 1, prepare yourself as an entrepreneur. I know when we presented this step, we used words such as determine whether you're an entrepreneur or not. So, I'm rewording that step to prepare yourself for the entrepreneurial journey. Like everything else, you need to prepare yourself as an entrepreneur. Just take some time to reflect on what are some of the skills that I need to develop to be an effective entrepreneur. We spoke about the qualities that an entrepreneur should have. And Tafazo, you mentioned one of those qualities, dealing with uncertainty. So many people are comfortable with certainty, particularly the certainty of a salary. Entrepreneurs have got this quality of dealing with uncertainty because they know that there is nothing that is guaranteed in this world. As it turns out, Tafadzo, all research is actually showing that entrepreneurship is a skill that can be learned. So you might feel that I'm not cut out to be an entrepreneur, particularly when you look at the qualities that are involved. The thing about it is that entrepreneurial skills can be learned. That's why it's very important for all entrepreneurs, and I'm saying it very deliberately because I've been on this journey for the past 12 years. It's very important that as an entrepreneur, you get a mentor. What I see most of the time is that those entrepreneurs that do not have mentorship do not succeed. Find an experienced entrepreneur, somebody who has been at it, for a much longer time than you, to actually mentor and coach you along the journey. And if you were to ask me, Tafadzo, what are the things that I did very well in my entrepreneurial journey? I know you've asked me what are the mistakes that I made. One of the things that I have done very well is to pay a business coach. Right from the start that I started my entrepreneurial journey, I knew I needed to be coached on certain skills, and therefore I got a coach. And that is something that I have found to be, very, very helpful. Last week, we also said that children that come out of entrepreneurial families tend to do very well in their entrepreneurial journey. So you can actually manage the learning curve of being an entrepreneur, not only through mentorship, with other entrepreneurs. So you need to prepare for this journey. And one way of preparing for this journey is, for example, taking time to work in a startup so that you can actually experience what it is to start a business, and you can experience the challenges that entrepreneurs actually go through. So that's step number one. Prepare yourself as an entrepreneur. Prepare yourself through mentorship. Prepare yourself through um, even getting adequate savings and learning about entrepreneurship and studying the book that we have recommended today. Step number two is define your enterprise. And when we spoke about this step last week, we had 3 or 4 bullet points under that step. Here we are talking about spending quite a lot of time being clear in your mind what it is that you need to do, what opportunity you have identified. As we all know, entrepreneurship is about solving the problems that customers have. Customers that we wish to sell products and services to have got problems. So big businesses that end up being scalable are businesses which are trying to solve the problems that customers have. So when you are defining your enterprise, you are taking time to really put your finger on the problem that you are trying to solve. What is the problem that you are trying to solve? You need clarity, on that. So the first bullet point under step number 2 was identify the problem that you need to solve. In other words, identify that opportunity that you're trying to pursue. As you identify this opportunity, you need to be clear what is the size of the opportunity. Who else is pursuing that opportunity? What makes you unique in that opportunity? These are all the research that you need to do and the things that you need to be clear about. Who are your customers? Who are the people that are going to buy from you? How are you going to reach them? How are your competitors, reaching, those people? Last week, when we spoke about this opportunity, Tafadzo, we came up with 5 criteria to evaluate the opportunity, because there are so many people who think that they have come up with the right opportunity. But when we look at it, it's actually not an opportunity. So the 5 characteristics of what constitutes a good opportunity is that, number 1, it must be an opportunity that creates significant value for customers, right? In other words, you've got a significant group that is willing to pay you to solve their problem, right? So just make sure that that opportunity creates significant value. Number 2, it's an opportunity that should offer significant profit opportunity to you as an entrepreneur. There is no point solving people's pain when there is no significant profit opportunity. And I can give you so many examples of businesses where people have got pain points as customers, but that opportunity will not create significant profit opportunities for the entrepreneur. A good example that I can give is coaching businesses. Sometimes I hear people saying, I want to be a coach, and there are so many people that want to be coached. The reality of it is that, yes, there are so many customers that want to be coached in businesses, but that kind of business may not create significant profit opportunities, for you. And you might need to look at the revenue streams and how you may create opportunities of profit for yourselves. It could be through writing books. It could be through speaking opportunities. Because if you are just a coach, trust me, I've tried that model before. And I've found that people will engage me as a coach. But when I tell them my price for being, for my services, then they say we're not willing to pay for that. And then, sometimes you've got coaches that end up spending quite a lot of time coaching people, and nobody's prepared to pay the fees that they charge. So it must offer significant profit opportunity to the entrepreneur and to the investors. and you must have clarity on the return on investment on the opportunity itself. Point number 3 is that it must represent a good fit with the capabilities of the founder and the management team. Don't go into an opportunity that you do not understand. Don't go into an opportunity that you do not have skill set for, or your management team does not have skill set for. You're going to fail. Just make sure that that opportunity represents a good fit. You are passionate about it. Although last week we did mention that passion is nothing. Did mention that passion is nothing as far as entrepreneurship is concerned. Point number 4, just make sure that the opportunity is durable. In other words, the opportunity for profits will persist over time. The reality about business is that businesses go through what we call business cycles. Sometimes there is an opportunity for everyone. Sometimes there is a recession in the economy. So just make sure that this opportunity is not really a window that will close after some time. In other words, throughout all the cycles that will be there, the profit opportunity will persist. That's very, very important. And then number 5, the opportunity is amenable to financing. In other words, if you were to present the opportunity to an investor, it's something that will excite them. Sometimes I have found people with very good ideas. You want to build a helicopter. You want to be the first African to build a helicopter. But who is going to finance that? Are the financiers, confident about your ability to build a helicopter? Because there are people that can actually build helicopters at a very low cost. This one that you're going to build is going to be very expensive. So nobody is going to finance that. So just make sure that your opportunities are amenable to finances. So far, Tafadzwa, I've spoken about the 2 steps. Step number 1, prepare for the entrepreneurial journey. Step number 2, we have said you need to define your enterprise. In defining your enterprise, point number 1, identify the problem that you're going to solve. Point number 2, build a business model and a strategy. A strategy doesn't need to be something complicated. We are advocates, Tafadzwa, of entrepreneurs having clarity on their model. And a model should answer simple questions such as, who are your key partners? What are the key activities of the business? What are the key resources that are needed? What are the customer segments that you are serving? How are you going to reach your customers? What is the cost structure of your business? Is it fixed cost? Is it variable cost? And what are the revenue streams of your business? So on one page, you can actually present that business model. What makes you unique? These are things that you must reflect on as an entrepreneur. Bullet point number 3, under point number 2 is organize your business, organize your company. Here we're talking about register your company and make sure that you've got the right kind of registration. And then point number 4, write your business plan. Doesn't matter whether you are a small business, whether you are a big business, we are advocates of a business plan being written. And last week I gave you advantages of writing a business plan, and I'm not going to go into it. Point number 3, finance your business. Now, that's very, very important. It depends on the size of the opportunity that you have identified. One of the reasons why Tafadzwa and myself do these kinds of teachings is because we are very passionate or on, having Black people build significant businesses, scalable businesses, businesses that can grow into other territories, businesses that can end up being global enterprises. And so such businesses will need financing. And as an entrepreneur, you need to know how to finance, your business. When we talk about financing, we sometimes split financing between, startup phase financing, because businesses go through different phases. Then growth phase financing, because when your business is growing, it will need financing. Then financing for mature businesses, because those are the three phases that your business will go through. The first phase is startup. The second phase is, growth phase, and then the third phase is mature phase. Some businesses by nature are capital hungry. Other businesses are not capital hungry. For example, if you want to start a bank, if you want to build a manufacturing plant, those are capital intensive businesses. You cannot finance them on your own. You will need people to finance those kind of businesses. But if you're starting small, you want to set up a shop, my advice is that, during that startup phase, you finance it through bootstrapping. So when we're talking about bootstrapping finances, we're talking about all those financing sources that, that the entrepreneur himself or herself provides. So that's bootstrapping. When I started my business, I had to bootstrap. I had savings, so I literally exhausted all my savings. So some of the sources of bootstrapping finances is personal savings. Sometimes you can get a second mortgage. I know of people who have had to use their credit card to finance their businesses. Some people have had to get loans from relatives or from friends. Or you can also look at, crowdfunding. I know of somebody who wants to build an electric vehicle, and they are doing a crowdfunding kind of initiative. Those are all, things that you can explore as far as startup, financing is concerned. But at the end of the day, it depends on the opportunities. One day, Tafadzwa, probably we can talk about angel investors. For those of you who would want to know about that, we can talk about venture capital financing. But there are several ways of financing your business. I know of significant businesses, particularly those that are pursuing real opportunities, that may actually go onto the stock market to obtain their financing. That's another way of financing your businesses. The point here, under step number 3, is that businesses need to be funded. In South Africa, the government has come up with initiatives such as the Black Industrialist Initiatives. They are trying to make sure that they create Black industrialists, because some of the industrialists that we have in South Africa, come from the white community. So government is putting aside funding. I'm talking about the government in South Africa putting aside funding through your developmental financial institutions. We call them DFIs, to be able to finance, Black industrialists. That's an area that you might want to look at. Go to government agencies that are prepared to fund your opportunity. But you don't fund your business until you've gone through the second stage, where you have defined your business. You'll actually see that even when you try to raise funding for your business and you do not have clarity on the opportunity that you are pursuing, on the business model that you are using, on the strategy and what makes you unique, you'll actually see that you won't be able to raise, sufficient funding. Step number 3 is scale up your business. When we talk about scaling up your business, we're talking about, growing, because, continued growth is very, very important. Remember, the reason why we start up a business is to create an asset of value. I know of people who go through the 3 stages that I have spoken about. They are able to finance their business, but they are not able to scale up their business. Scaling up of business, is done for a number of reasons. One of the reasons why you would want to scale up your business is you want to be first to the market, because we call it first mover advantage. Sometimes to have that first mover advantage, you would need resources through the growth stage of the business to be able to be visible to your customers so that you can exploit that first mover advantage. Because remember, as an entrepreneur, the speed of execution is very important. In my entrepreneurial journey, if I can give you one quality that distinguishes people who end up being successful and people who end up not being successful, is the speed of execution, the speed with which they execute on their business plan. Execution is 90% of success for an entrepreneur, in my view. Because in stage number 1, 2, 3, you are philosophizing on the opportunity, but it's only through the scaling up phase where you actually grow the business, and that becomes very, very important. Scaling up also involves building systems. One of the things that you would need to do in your business is to build systems that will outlast you. Today, we've been talking about artificial intelligence. These are technologies that you can incorporate in your business to help you do what you need to do. So part of what you need to do during that scaling up phase is to be able to come up with systems that will result in your business growing. Because there is a startup phase. The startup phase is where you constitute your business. Then there is a scaling up phase. The scaling up phase is where you grow. The growth rates during the scaling up phase are normally, very, very high. And during that scale up phase, you may want to grow to other territories. You may want to pilot certain products. And as you pilot, those products, and Tafadzwa, probably we may need to do a specific show on how to scale up your business, because that's very, very important. After you've scaled up your business is now mature. You have been at it, for a very long time. You need to look to the future. So that would be step number 5. Step number 5 is where the entrepreneur is now exiting the business. They have created an asset of value, and they would want to exit the business. And entrepreneurs exit businesses for different reasons. Maybe they want to diversify their wealth. Maybe they want to embark on another entrepreneurial venture. Or maybe they want to maximize on this asset that they have built because there is a competitor who is coming, or they are going to be swallowed by another bigger competitor. Those are options that you will have when you get to stage, number 5, which is, the exit, phase. Maybe at that stage you want to hand over to professional managers. And so as an entrepreneur, you always need to look at the exit options that you would have. You need to look to the future. You need to reinvent yourself. You might want to hand over the business to your children, which is something that I hope to do at some stage. But for you to get to that stage, you must have built an asset of value, something that will outlast you as an entrepreneur. So those are the 5 steps of building an effective, business. At some stage in the future, Tafadzo, we might want to revisit these steps and add more flesh to the steps. But let me stop here for at least for today.
Thank you very much for those insights. Any concluding comments from yourself, and how can people get hold of you?
Concluding thought number one, entrepreneurship and investing are the only two activities to bridge the inequality gap that we have. Concluding thought number two, when you decide to build a business, just know that entrepreneurship is a skill that can be learned. And there are people who have researched on entrepreneurship. Make sure you do it the right way. And what we're trying to do today is to articulate the steps of doing it the right way. Prepare yourself for the journey, define your enterprise, finance your business. Businesses that are not adequately financed will never amount to much. They're very difficult to scale up. Number four, scale up your business. And then number five, look at exit option, what it is that you need to do. Concluding thought, the last concluding thought that I have, Tafadzwa, is that we are living in a time of great opportunity. I hope as you read about finance news, as you read about what is going on in the world, you can look at opportunities. There are so many opportunities around. Some of the opportunities need to be pursued by us. And this is the time for you to launch your business and pursue these opportunities. Tafadzwa and I are business coaches. You can get hold of me via LinkedIn. So just type in Temba Duplex Mazibuko. We assist entrepreneurs with business plans. So for the past 12 years, we've assisted entrepreneurs to craft their own business plans, and we've done it very well. And I'm proud, when I look at some of the entrepreneurs that have gone on to build, businesses. And we're very passionate about sharing our experience, sharing our mistakes, and sharing some of the things that we've done well in this journey as entrepreneurs. Over to you, Tafadzwa.
Thank you very much, Temba, for your time and for the insights. Yes, as Temba mentioned, when you do these shows, it's more of general information, but if you want personalized help, you can then get hold of Temba on LinkedIn, or you can write us an email at tafadzwamazibukospeaks.co.za, or you can also visit our website, www.tafadzwamazibukospeaks.co.za, and you can also support us by liking our, subscribing to our YouTube channels, The Dream That Is Worth Fighting For, and manage your finances like Black Belt. Enjoy the rest of the weekend, and we appreciate your support. Thank you for joining us. Let's grow together. Your dream is worth fighting for. Cheers.